So we are continuing on with our theme of the year. Change, change, change. Is that what you said, Kumar? Yeah, change, change, change. Our theme this month, change nothing. Change nothing. The principles we'll be working with today, spiritual principle number 6, and you can find the spiritual principles in the back of your seats if you'd like to read along with me. Spiritual principle number 6, we believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. Spiritual principle number 7, we believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. Spiritual principle number 3, we believe in eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. Spiritual principle number 11, we believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny, for we understand that the life of all is God. Change nothing. I was listening to a song this morning. I don't know if you know, but Reverend Michael Beckwith, he put a CD out some years ago, and it's a rap CD. And one of the songs, he says, just one day in heaven, being available to the expansiveness of God. That's heaven. Just one day. Change nothing. Just one day in heaven. To be available to the ever expansiveness of God. That's heaven. Just one day of it. Today. One experience of it. One moment of being ever available to God. You don't have to change nothing. So at the end of the year, last year in 2018, it became very clear to me that in 2019 that our theme would be change. And I told you then to buckle up, that it would be a year, and it's been a year. Change has been so wonderful and so magnificent. I have learned a lot about myself and had to change a lot about myself. And last week, we ended up by saying that change demands that you change. It demands that you change. And someone mentioned to me last week after the service, they said, now, if I haven't changed anything after this year, Reverend Twana, it's not your fault. If I haven't changed one thing this year, it is not your fault. And I said, thank you. Change demands that you change. Change me. I mean, this year, standing here at this podium, I sang twice. I rapped once. I did it. And last week I said that change has been informing and transforming. It's been conspiring and it's been inspiring. It's been all that. And change had so much to say that I couldn't fit it all in last week. So this is part 2 of the year in review. We said back in July that change is a matter of choice, not chance. Change is a matter of choice, not chance. And in order to change, then, we have to change what we see. We said to change the way you live, change the way you live to change what you see, and you will see the life you're living change. And this life is a life that this year we became so much more clear of, that it's a life then, this life that we're talking about is a life of awareness. Specifically, an awareness of our conscious union with God. It's been a constant theme throughout the year. And perhaps it's the most important thing, that we become more and more aware of our conscious union with God. Just one day in heaven. To be available to the expansiveness of God as heaven. Change nothing. Howard Thurman, in Deep is the Hunger, on page 177, he says this: "Wheresoever they may be, they are not without God. And where there is one alone, ever thus I am with him. Raise the stone, and there thou shalt find me. Cleave the wood, and I am there," said Jesus. The quotation is not to be found in any of the Gospels of the New Testament. It may be from the same record which Paul was using when he said, "Remember the words of our Master, how he said, quote, 'It is more blessed to give than to receive.'" Well, no one knows from what source the apostle is quoting. It is a lost record. Fragments points up to one of the great facts of life, namely that wherever we may be, we cannot possibly be without God. The fear of isolation seems to be the master fear of human life. Almost all things to eat away at our sense of security can be traced to this basic fear. It has been suggested that this is true because God and God alone is the only final ground of security and community for the individual. Therefore, all of the sense of penetrating aloneness which we may feel, all of the deep distress of spirit arising out of the tension coming from feeling stranded and cut off, all of the quiet or churning panic developed from a sudden awareness of a loss of props and defense, all of this is God's way of reminding us that wheresoever we are and whatsoever may be our condition, we are not without God. The panic, the fear is the cry of recognition. Raise the stone, and there thou shalt find him. Cleave the wood, and he is there. Our conscious awareness of our oneness with God. The most important thing. The Bible says to seek ye first. Same thing, a conscious awareness with God. That it is the utmost important. And why? Well, when life presents us with its ups and downs, its highs and its lows, what we said was that this then is an opportunity of a lifetime. Just one day in heaven. An opportunity of a lifetime, and we need to have something to hold on to, something to turn to, otherwise we'll be tempted. We'll be tempted to settle, we'll be tempted to do what's quick and easy, we'll be tempted to assess and to analyze and to summarize the events of our life. But change moves us beyond that. Change carries us to the place that we want to be. And when this change is met with our full attention, then we are moved into action to put down the lesser for the greater. We don't have to analyze what she said, when she said it, how she said it. It doesn't matter. Change. We went on to say that freedom is dependent on what you see. So we have to be willing then to view life in truth and in light so that we may catch a greater glimpse of the good that is at hand. We have to consider then what we said was, we have to consider what we are looking with, what we are looking for, and what do I see. We said that this is a practice to always be examining, what am I looking with? My eyes or thine eyes? Are we looking with the eyes that has the ability to discern and to know? Or are we looking with eyes that see only a limited perspective, a minuscule amount? The truth is that, that sometimes what you think you see is not there. Or what you see is limited and we are unaware that there is more there. We said that it's important to know what you are looking for. Otherwise, it's easy just to have a casual observation, to not see at all what's in front of us. And so the question is, then we said, is what do you see? And Ernest Holmes says that if the mind Ernest Holmes says that it is the mind within that does the real seeing. So what we see, is it real? Or as the reading leaded to earlier this morning, is it an illusion? Is it real or is it an illusion? And Joel Goldsmith reminded us that if it is an illusion, that it has no substance, no body, no form, and no law to enforce it, no mind to create it, express it, or respond to it, if it's an illusion. And that only through spiritual discernment are we able to pierce the veil of illusion and behold the spiritual universe here and now, perfect in its being, change nothing. It's one day in heaven, to be available to the expansiveness of God, the ever-increasing expansiveness of God. That what we see then in our vision alone, that it is so revealing of the truth that nothing outside of us needs to change. Then if what we see is not pure perfection, if what's right in front of me when I go home, if I can't see it as pure perfection, if I can't hear the words of God, if I can't hear the words of God flowing through my ears, if I don't experience it and sense it and know it, if it's not pure perfection, then what do I see? Because there's only pure perfection. There is only God. Then let us declare then that what I see is pure perfection, because when we declare that it's pure perfection, it'll become pure perfection. And if it's not, then let us be so bold and willing to admit then that it is our eyesight that is altered and not the truth. It is me. This last year we talked a lot about principles. We said that we should always be checking within to see if the ideas and the ideals that we talk about here, if it resonates with you or not. To check in and see if the principles hold some weight for you. We should always be asking, what does it mean when they say that the highest God and the innermost God are one? What exactly do they mean? What do we mean when we say we are the individualization of the inner spirit in us? What exactly do we mean when we say heaven is within us? And we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. What does it mean? And the way to see if these ideas and these ideals resonate with you is to begin to practice. Because what we said is that practice doesn't make perfect, practice reveals perfection. And that leads us then to understand